Hello and welcome to the Industry Podcast. My name is Corey. I'm joined by my co-host Blake. And the Industry Podcast is your source for industry interviews, insights, and inside stories. How you doing today, Blake?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Awesome. And today we have a wonderful special guest on the show today, the Industry Podcast, and we're joined by Michael Druck.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
I'm glad we were able to make this work, so thank you.
Yeah, I know it was a struggle to come in, but we're so happy to have you. And so a little bit about Michael, if I can say something, you can take it away anytime.
Okay.
Every show that he's been on says he's the biggest casting director in Texas for the last decade, and that's syndicated across multiple shows. So I know he's a modest guy and a very humble guy, and we appreciate him being here. But yeah, thank you so much. And that's how far I got.
That's a big intro to live up to.
And not to give you
I am
big
humble
shoes,
enough and realistic to know that's not the truth. But I will say though that I'm happy to be in great company right now in this point in my career. I could say I've easily leveled up. I'm doing a nice mix of principals and extras casting for lots of different mediums: film, commercial, television, new media. I broke out more into the Los Angeles market, and I do a lot of virtual casting on either coast. That sets me apart a little bit. I'm definitely the next generation of casting directors to come up.
Okay.
Meaning, like, when I started, there were so many of us, or so many of them, and some are still in the game. Some have moved on. Some have moved on to other markets.
Sure.
And I'm able to be, sometimes on any given day, you can count whether you are a starting casting director or you have a couple credits or you're consistently working. I remember there was like 8 to 10 of us, but I want to say actively working in Texas, there's like 6 to 8 of us.
Okay.
So on any, even just to be one of 6 working casting companies or even 8 working casting companies that get full-time work, that's still, again, you can put us into one room. So that's a very privileged, group to be a part of, and to have worked my way into. So, depending on what the project is and what they're looking for, you could say I'm one of the top 3 or top 5 or top 6 or depending on what they're looking for. And yeah, that's, I guess you could say I've been casting now for, about a decade. So 2012 is when I launched. And so I guess we'll celebrate that 10-year this year unofficially. And then I was asked earlier, how long have I been in the business? I would say I started receiving even small checks in this business since about 2003, so out of high school. So I've been behind the scenes in showbiz, like actually working either as an assistant to a talent agent, being an agent myself, or producing, coordinating, marketing, casting, maybe not receiving casting credit, but that's the type of work I was doing.
Sure.
Just anything administratively that's within to the film, commercial, TV, and even the theater market. Yeah.
That's really awesome. And so coming up into casting and kind of getting into it, what's interesting about casting to you? And what's the draw? Yeah,
the draw of it is it's just such a nice mix of creative and producing and administrative. See, I've always kind of been a geek when it comes to like office work. I like to just kind of stay busy, but then there's creative to it. I know it takes a lot to get to the creative.
Sure.
You have to deal with production aspects. You have to deal with logistics. You have to deal with technology. You have to deal with deadlines. You have to deal with money. You have to deal with staffing, all this other stuff before you get to even just the actor reading and in a room.
Right.
But when you're actually able to have those moments and have that moment with that raw, what casting is in its rawest form, casting director and actor, and you're just collaborating to pick the best actor for this project and bringing forward the best options and interacting with this actor and getting the best performance out of them. That's when I'm like, whoa, that's why I'm in this business. That's why I'm happy to call myself a casting director. Those moments. Or when I see, you see the final product, you see this scene in a film that you worked tirelessly on. It might even just be a 2-second clip, but you're like, oh, we did that. We made it happen.
That's really interesting.
So whether we painted the backdrop with amazing actors or whether it was 2 lead actors in a great indie film, or a
Yeah.
whole commercial campaign that you work tirelessly on to do weeks of a search to find the right people. That's, and then there's some projects that, are kind of timeless. Like you can
Yeah.
go on streaming and be like, wow, we were a small part of that. I always like to say, we're a cog in the machine.
Sure.
And, and that's, I like when people understand the importance of the casting part of it. And I've gained a huge respect for it since being in it and
Sure.
learning. I like to know more about our history and know more about the leaders and the trendsetters in our industry, and also my colleagues. I really take a lot of my time outside the business when I'm not working or while I'm working, and get to know my colleagues not only on a local level but on a national and international level. Like the role.
Yeah.
What are we working on now? Are we working on diversity? Are we working on, getting these young directors in on the casting process so they can work with us and know exactly how we can help better their project than them trying to just do it themselves. So, that's, to me, that's the most exciting part, is the collaboration part. And then the downside could probably be just, again, deadlines. And then,
Of course,
of course, we could go more into that later. But at the same time, just how technology has improved things, but it's also changed things and continues to, meaning so many people have a word in, so many people have a say. And that's always going to be a part of our industry to an extent. But also, like with a commercial, yes, you have ad agents and productions and producers and directors and copywriters and, production company, and everyone's got their word in. And then even like on a TV or film, you have writer, assistant, interns who are giving their 2 cents. And more power to them. I think that's great. But at the same time, it's like, okay, who's making the decision here? Is it the director? Is it the studio head? I need to know who that person. That's who I want to have my conversation with. I definitely like to take notes, and I even started making it a rule with independent films that I cast. I try to say, hey, save your notes for on your own, because sometimes I like to not be in the room when they're having those notes, and I'd rather them come back with one collected voice and say, oh no, this is the direction we're going to, or actually we've liked everyone we've seen so far. So that really helps. And yes, I will give my 2 cents, but I'm old school in the sense that if I bring an actor to you, I think they can book the role. I've already vetted my part. So when an actor has read, and the director or decision maker is saying, and what did you think? I'm just like, I'll be honest, if maybe they just weren't 100% that day. But at the same time, overall, my general opinion is I think they can book the job. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
At that point, now when we get into chemistry reads and narrowing down or seeing other choices, then that might change my opinion. But for the most part, if an actor's got the invitation to audition, I think that they can get the job. Or we typically do. That's a general consensus for the cast.
So how many casting tapes do you think you've seen since you got your start in 03?
Well, tapes, I can't say, but projects, we've cast over 500 projects, big and small.
Wow.
We actually added it up. When COVID hit, I paid my good old associate, Adam, and I was just like, hey, I will give you a weekly stipend to go through my email since the start of my casting career 10 years ago, and add up every job I've done, because I didn't do it as I was going.
Yeah.
What a good time to do it, COVID, while everything was stopped.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, you have over 400 jobs right now. And I'm like, okay. And then we had already started working again. So just putting those pieces together was over 500. And then as far as tapes go, I mean, there's specific searches where it's just an independent film, not just, but say an independent film with 4 roles. And then I will see how many people we've seen for those 4 roles, 650 tapes for 4 roles. It could be that much.
Wow.
So many factors are involved. Are they letting me get tape from coast to coast?
Yeah.
Are they letting me, is it just a local search? Is it SAG? Is it non-union? Is it, how many people are invited to the party that I get to choose? And then if I'm able to cast a wider net thanks to self-tape, I will cast a wider net. But then I'm also respecting agents and managers who have pitched themselves or pitched their actors.
Yeah.
And because it's self-tape now and I'm not limited to so many spots per day, I'll be, send me their stuff. I will take a look at it. And if it's I think the director should see it, then I'll go ahead and make sure the director. And then sometimes I make deals with the director. Well, I'll probably show them nearly all the tapes, unless it's just bad.
Yeah.
But because maybe there's something that they're seeing that I'm not seeing, and that's happened before too, where I'm like,
Sure.
okay, they got the call back. The director saw something in them, and then I see them again in a different light, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's what it is. That's what they're seeing, and I'm hoping that it works both ways.
Yeah.
Where I'm seeing something, I'm advocating for an actor, and they're like, okay, if you say so. And then when they're working with them, and then they get that aha moment, I'm like, okay, great. And now they saw what I could see, or the actor was able to bring what I know they could bring to that performance. So
That's so cool.
So yeah, hundreds of tapes, thousands of tapes. It could be hundreds per project.
In all aspects, all different forms.
It has to be
and
thousands and thousands.
sizes
Out of the
and
500
resolutions.
at least thousands at this point, But that's great to say I've seen thousands of tapes, and that's probably why, and I know now why, casting directors do have instincts for actors. Maybe I didn't quite get it when I started my career in it.
Sure.
But it was just more of a, now you have a hunch, like where I don't even need to see a whole take. I'm like, okay, they got it.
They got it.
We're good, or they don't
Awesome.
got it, or not for this role, but I'll bring you in for something else. Or hey, I really just wanted you to see this actor, what we call a wild card, like might not fit the breakdown, but they bring good work and they're going to bring good choices. And
Sure.
they're not going to waste your time.
So you have like a little bit of personal opinion, a little bit of.
If we have the time and we have that as a luxury, and the director, because a lot of times I'm also getting to know director too.
For sure.
That's my relationship with them. I've had the luxury
You just know what the
getting to
thing they're
know
looking
directors when they've hired, and I get called for those jobs a lot, where a director's saying, we've normally done the casting ourselves, or it's a husband and wife team, or a small production company, and we're actually hiring a casting director for the first time. So I'm breaking them into the process just as much as we're starting a new relationship. So they're releasing a lot of what their day-to-day usually was, and then they're sitting down with me and just watching some links and reading some notes, and I'm kind of educating them along the way too. Like, oh no, this is how we run it, or hey, I wanted to read 4 people at once. I'm like, I think it'd be more effective if it was 2 at a time, or
Sure.
we can't do a 2-hour-long callback.
You're saving first-time directors from themselves.
Exactly. Or 15 minutes, we should be able to see if they have chemistry or not. And I'm also being respectful of the actor's time. Some of my great casting mentors taught me that a lot, to always respect an actor's time, and not everyone does do that. Sometimes it's notorious for busy lobbies, and there are days where I can't fight that just based on scheduling or how they want to see the actors, or just the constraints that we have. But I'm not perfect when it comes to scheduling, but I will always make sure that their time is valued, and hopefully they're not waiting too long, and it's not a cattle call. I think to me that's I've told directors and producers who just want numbers. They're like, where are the hundreds of options?
Give me
like,
15 warm bodies.
I call that Craigslist casting. And they hate to hear that. I'm like, well, here's the thing. You could do that on your own. You could put the word out into the universe and or put it on Backstage or whatever, and get all these submissions, but then you're having to do all the work again yourself. Because again, to me, good casting isn't a lot of numbers. I worked with a director recently who was old school in that sense.
You're a little bit more curated. Mm-hmm. Like, I think I heard
a nice curated list. If I give you 15 to 20 actors per role, I think each one of those can bring something special to the role. So I've already curated that list for you. So I've had the hundreds of submissions already. I've trimmed it down. Now I might also have my backups too, people who maybe I just didn't see them for that role. And there's times also where they adjust the role, or they change the role. Say, we're going to go with a woman instead of a man, or we're going to open up the ethnicities. And we try to do that from the get-go too, to open up, their expectation. But if it's related to the story, sometimes you're not able to do that. But I definitely try to expand their palette a little bit. But again, at the end of the day, my job is to get into their head and to help them tell the story that they had envisioned. Yeah. And so I'm not trying to tell them my story. I'm trying to be like, okay, let me get to know you. And so a lot of times, if I'm working with a director for the first time, I'll ask them, well, who would play them in a Hollywood movie right now? Or, what were some of your influences when you were writing it? Because a lot of times it's the director writers. And that's great, because then I can just ask 1 or 2 people who are already in the room, more about it versus. But then I've also had to ask writers and directors multiple collaborators.
Sure.
About all that stuff. But the more info I have going in,
Yeah.
the better it is than just me just picking people who are just good actors.
Yeah.
I can actually just, and then there's times where,
That
depending on the
versus
role,
like commercials. I think you're talking about narratives, but more commercials. I bet it's more of an objective. Like this person can be
a
on
lot of
camera.
it's a look for commercial.
Just a certain look.
Look and a personality.
Sure.
Being able to handle and be able to channel themselves and channel their energy, and focus it. And just bring some energy. I talked to a lot of agent friends of mine, because they're repping their actors.
Yeah.
And they want their actors to book so they get their commission and they're able to make a living. But there's many actors we talk about just not popping on the screen.
Sure.
Because we are doing a lot of self-tape. There's a lot less in person. So
Yeah.
the client isn't able to be overwhelmed or, wowed by them in person. So they're counting on this two-dimensional little box. So you got to bring something to that tape, whether it's personality. It doesn't mean pushing too hard. It just means bringing your authentic, true self. And maybe if it's commercial, a little more energy. Like I said, if you're normally at a 5, for commercial, go a 7. You don't want to go crazy to a 10, but you definitely want to bring a little more. I say, pretend like you had one latte or one coffee right before. Not 4 shots of espresso before you watch it. But
I like that.
Film
I like
is
that
a
as
little
a
more grounded.
suggestion.
It's definitely more grounded, but also there's different roles. Remember, you're not playing yourself, but you're also making the choices yourself and all that. So, yeah. And what's interesting about my type of casting too is I do cast for all types of roles. I know some specifically, primarily to commercial. Some primarily do narrative film or TV. I like that my job kind of goes back and forth. And so that means I'm meeting these people, say for a commercial, and I'm like, you have a unique look. I'm casting this indie. Do you want to read for it?
Yeah.
And so my pool of talent, I'm complimented that I give a lot of new faces each audition. And I feel like that's 2 different ways you can cast. Some go very traditional and stick to the same 5 talent agencies that they know will bring good actors. But you run the risk of seeing the same 120, 80 actors in Texas for every project. But with me, I'll call in agencies and y'all call in. So my problem is I might not see the same people for every job, which can be good or bad. But you kind of have to get more on my radar per job.
Sure.
But that's how I do my casting, and maybe I might have to fine tune it. Definitely, the more prestigious the job and more high level it is, if it was all studio projects, I probably would have to stick to more represented talent because they have the chops and they have the marketing materials and I know they can go into a callback at a studio and just nail it.
Yeah.
Versus a green talent who's never done this before, but who just might be a good natural actor. They might need to work on a couple things before they tackle on a role that size.
So I want to go back a little bit to talk about hiring a casting director and the context of that. When you talk with a casting director, that's a step up from just hiring from proximity and
social media or
whoever's closest to you. And just kind of taking filmmaking a little bit more seriously and pushing in a way of trusting your own art form, your own self, especially in a director role, and just taking that jump. So have you been in a position where you've convinced up and coming directors or reached out to directors and been impressed by them and said, hey,
I want to cast your project.
I want to cast your project.
I like organically meeting people because, I'm not stupid. I'll see who my colleagues are casting for and I'll be like, who is that director? I've never worked with them before.
Yeah.
But I try not to poach who's already been poached, but at the same time, you'll hear of directors. And luckily for me, getting to know other crew members, even though we're not on set a lot, having great relationships with assistant directors and other coordinators, and they all have friends and they're all talking within the industry. Hey, who is a good casting person, or who's someone who'd be good? And that's how I get. 99% of my work is referral. I actually still don't have a website. 10 years later, I'm finally going to get one. But
You're just really good at answering the phone.
Well, it depends on who you ask. But I keep it on me. In fact, I was just answering a text recently. But no, I like getting to know directors, and we were just talking about how they're just getting younger and younger. And now, the most recent project I had, and the project unfortunately didn't go through 100%, but we cast 95% of it, they were 22-year-old co-directors. I was like,
Whoa.
wow, they're
Wow.
babies, but they had funding from producers, and they had a really. At first, I was like, where do these kids know? But the more I got to know them, they were so passionate, and that taught me I really need to not judge a book by its cover. Just
Yeah.
like I'm hoping they don't judge me for being too old, even though I'm still young.
No, not at all.
But
Not at all.
ageism is part of our industry too, and I've talked to colleagues and my mentors about that too, about how everyone wants young and hot, but what is young and hot? I like to think that you probably want more of a seasoned casting director, someone who's been around and knows your talent pool and knows the rule. They're looking, like you said, like we were just talking about how it's partly my job to coach them along the way. I think that's when they look for that experience. But as far as directors and getting to know people, I'm just a fan of film still. I like going to festivals. I need probably go to more. And I keep my ear to the ground. And I always like, getting to know stories and scripts and actors and all that. So I guess that's probably why my name goes out there into and I'm indie friendly. I guess that's a word. Indie friendly can be.
That's important. Michael Druck casting, indie friendly.
But here's the thing.
It's going to be a separate tab on your website.
Actually, my log line on my website that it has yet to be built. I'm playing around with the log line. Indie film friendly, commercially driven, and a little bit extra, because that's really what I am at the end of the day.
Actually, I love that. No notes. No notes. That's good.
In a nutshell, that's what I am, and professionally. But no, I mean, I think when indie friendly, number one, everyone thinks cheap. I am more economical, I think, than other companies because I don't have a brick and mortar, and I made that conscious decision.
Sure.
Because I don't have to charge hundreds a day. I could charge, a couple hundred a day. Or you're ultimately paying for our time and our expertise.
Mm-hmm.
When people say, and this is something for the indie filmmakers to know, do not approach a casting director and ask, what's your rate?
Okay.
Just tell me more.
Noted.
I need to
That's
know
in the bank.
how many characters are we doing? What's the turnaround? How much are the actors getting paid? Is this union or non-union? Is this your first time, tell me about this director. Who's the director? Who's the writer? Who are the producers attached? Well, do you already have an actor attached to it? Where are we shooting? So many things. So what I ask for right away is at least a character breakdown, even if the script isn't finalized. I like to see a draft of the script, see if there's any. What are they looking for? Are they looking for 20-somethings, or are they looking for a 13-year-old Vietnamese girl who can play country music?
Yeah.
What are we?
How detailed can we get?
Right. Are we going to do a deep search for this, or are we going to find people in our backyard? And then right away, I'll be able to tell the director, okay, so I can find all these people here. For these two roles, I'm going to have to do a search outside Texas. And this is what you would be paying for. So I try to break it down as much as possible. At the end of the day, though, at the end of every sentence when I'm doing a financial bid, it's more, hey, let me know what you have to work with. Like, if you already have an idea, don't play coy with me. And I guess we do ask what the budget is. Some casting colleagues go based on the whole budget of the film. Sometimes I think as much as 3% of your budget should go to casting, depending on what the budget is.
Sure.
But if it's a very micro indie budget, you might need to get paid more. So to give you an example, I'm asking, how many roles did we have to cast for this last job? Well, I'm actually going to divulge rates, and they might be very under or high than what other people pay.
Sure.
But to give you an example, for an indie film I cast recently, it was easily 3 weeks work, maybe 4 if you include the prep, on our own.
Okay.
I did about 4,000. That sounded about right to me. And at first, that's a big pill for a lot of people, indie filmmakers to swallow, especially when they're not used to paying for it.
Yeah.
But when I showed them what they were getting, 13 roles. Okay, so you click on a link and you get to see all these videos already ready. You just tell me who you like. Then you turn around and tell me this is who I want to see for the callback. And then I schedule, or my team and I schedule these Zoom callbacks. So all you have to do is just show up and play with these actors and decide if they're the right one.
So essentially, you
turn
kind of
around
handle.
and tell me, okay, let's book these actors. Great. Then we do the deal memo and we do the negotiating with the agencies. Then we hand them all over to you. I think that was so. It took you just being.
I would say that's worth it.
And then I'm just giving you an idea. And it could be way more. It could be way less.
Yeah.
I've done more for less. I've done less for more. But I'm just giving you an idea. And then as for extras, too, I'm always having to negotiate how many extras and what's the actors. I always go for what the extras or actors rate is, because if an actor is getting paid $200 a day, which is an okay rate for Texas, it actually pays for their time.
Yeah.
Or 500 a day, 2 to 500 a day, just depending on what the rate is
Yeah.
or scale, then that's different than them getting paid $50 and credit and copy and and no gas money. And then I'm like, they're going to really have to fall in love with the script for me to get them. Named actors, people always want a name, and that's when I get these directors like, what will it take to get a name? And I do that. I think I'm one of the, also, I don't want to say one of the few, I'm a casting director in Texas who actually does offers for LA and New York actors.
Top casting director in Texas for the last decade.
But you get
that's other descriptions.
No, but that goes with me going to LA and learning the LA market and how negotiations are made. I got to work on The Affair for a season, and I purposely did that in the middle of my career because I was hitting the ceiling just doing extras in indies. And I was like, there's got to be more to this. I'm happy that we have, Beth Sepko and Vicky Boone and those people. But I was like, I want to do more. But, I went out and I applied for a job with Risa Braben Garcia, who was Oliver Stone's casting director. She's a legend. If you know casting directors, just IMDb her. She's amazing. Was
she the one in that documentary Casting By?
She's one of them.
Okay. I watched the trailer. I'm going to watch that movie. It looks really good.
By. She has her one little scene, and she actually told me about the behind the scenes. They spent a whole day with her. She's a great acting coach herself. She co-owns an acting studio that I'm actually a part of. It's a good home for actors called the BGB Studio. I'm plugging you, Risa. But no.
Shout out BGB Studio.
BGB Studio. Look it up. They're great. They have online classes and they have classes in Burbank and in Atlanta. But I'm not just plugging them to plug them. They don't need a plug because they're an actor's studio, meaning they don't just take anyone off the street. You have to apply and all that. It's a good hub for working actors and for people who want to work, not get famous. There are no quick solutions. In fact, one of Risa's quotes is, would you still want to do this job if you knew, as an actor, if you knew you wouldn't make a dime for the next 10 years, would you still do it? And so she asked you questions, and she even, as a casting assistant, she asked me questions that got me to...
Same question as a casting assistant.
Reevaluate, yeah. Well, that too. I mean, it wasn't like, come here, kid, let me teach you how to be a casting director, but just being around her and being able to ask questions and able to be like, I want to proximity. Be here. She did sometimes say, well, who just packs their bag and goes to LA? Like, who still does that? And I was like, and granted, I didn't stay out there forever. And
there's quite a few that still do that.
Part of the reason why I didn't stay out there was because aside from Risa, not too many people hired me as an assistant because I had way too many credits, I think. Because I did it the opposite way. I started out as a casting director, went out there and became an assistant. And in LA, you're either an assistant, an associate, or a casting director. The associates are the one hiring me. So they're like, okay, what's this guy's end game? What does he want to do? Yeah. And I was just there to learn. I was just there like, give me your low rate and I'll run your sessions for you. And I like knowing who the top 30 talent agencies are and managers and getting to know who they were.
Yeah.
But interesting enough, at that same time, I feel like going to LA showed my local clients what they were missing. Because when I was gone for a while, they felt it. And then maybe not all of them, but the ones that I really respect, especially in the commercial field, missed it.
Yeah.
And then when I came back, I think I got a lot more respect. Like, oh, he knows LA people. He actually knows them. And I was like, it wasn't just knowing. It was like knowing what the process is on how to make an offer to an actor and what a good offer is and being able to pick up the phone and call an agent's assistant and wheel and deal. And, and I've worked with Texas casting colleagues, and they've never even made an offer to an LA actor. And that's fine. We're all at different levels.
Yeah.
But I was like, wow, that's an asset. That's like, I know how to make an offer. Now I got to be able to communicate with my indie filmmaker. Hey, you got to have the money. If you want Joe Schmo, who's been in Smallville, he will want at least $20,000 plus blah, 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 plus a rental car.
And he's not going to lower his price because he has
he or she or whoever. Exactly. They're going to want. And I have done movies where I solely just done offers. And that's an interesting game. It's like playing,
a chess game or something?
A chess game, but it's also it's more casual than that. It's like ping pong.
Okay.
You send the offer, you wait to hear back. You have to just to get them to read the script, But again, when you come in with a little bit more respect, you're not just this indie casting director from Texas. I'm like, oh, they know me from Risa's office. So I have a little familiarity, and they're like, oh, he's not just John Doe. So when I'm telling local clients, hey, I actually have kind of a name out there. Like people know, they're at least familiar with my name at least, or maybe a little. And so, but
Michael Druck, like,
but you get what I mean. I'm trying to say when there's a little familiarity and they know I'm not just Joe Schmo off the street, like
yeah,
it already sets me apart if I'm trying to make an offer. So I don't know how we got on this tangent, but what I'm trying to say is there's just lots of different types of casting out there, and that's why another thing I'm able to separate myself on. But going back to hiring a casting director, being able to have your questions and being able to provide us with as much info as possible. Do you even have your synopsis written? Do you have your character description? There's times where I literally just get handed a script and I have to put all that together myself.
Sure.
It's kind of tedious, but I'd rather it come from you or the writer, and that's not
Sure.
me being lazy. I mean, it's great when I get everything. I get the deck, I get wish list, I get whatever, we would like these actors. This is, the mood board. This is the vibe. Cool. I got everything I need. I'll have your breakdown out tomorrow. We'll start to get options over the weekend. I'll let you know when we can get taped. Well, that also helps me give it a realistic timeline. Because sadly, a lot of people don't think of hiring a casting director, especially with extras, but principals too, and so right before they need it. And the more prep time we get, the better. And then we can also probably get you a better rate. Because just like if you hire a grip the day before a shoot, they're probably going to charge you a lot more, or even, there's some departments where you don't even have that luxury. Like you need to hire art way earlier. You need to hire costumes hopefully earlier than that.
There's a lot more pre-production done on other
going to be
departments.
a lot higher because they've had to jump into it. And then I do love when people are like, well, we don't have a budget for casting, but I'm like, well, then why are you calling me? Just kidding. But no, I've definitely had to fight for a higher rate. And I was even told a couple years back by one of my colleagues, they probably charged a little too little for myself. But I'm trying to be very fair. I just put the numbers down. This is what I need to survive. This is what my assistant needs to survive. This is what my time is worth. But again, I circle back to let me know what you have to work with.
Yeah.
And then, but I don't want to underbid so much to where, if they call John Doe, I think we should all keep our rates high to an extent because you don't want to just hire whoever's cheapest.
Sure.
And I think you get what you pay for when you go with it. And I'm learning more. It's just better to let some jobs go or just tell them what you can do with the certain amount they do have. If I bid 2,000 but they only have 500, okay. For 500, I can get you tapes and you review them and then you get them to call back and then you book them. Something like that. Or for X amount, I can have all the submission. I'll do a post for you. Or if I like the director, I just might say, okay, since you don't have a budget for me, how about I send all the submissions to you and then you do whatever you're going to do with them. I've totally done that. And then I put that on my postings. I'll say, hey guys, I'm not casting this, but I've worked with this person and they're really good. And I think actors are more likely to submit because it's being endorsed by a casting director. That's another thing. There's a level of safety when you hire a casting director because we've hopefully fielded you a little bit and we know who you are. And if we don't know who you are, we ask the questions to know whether you're legitimate or not. Now, there's extenuating factors. Like, we don't know exactly what's in your bank account, but if you pay us a deposit, that might tell me, well, okay, then at least they have some
money. Trying to get your attention, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But, and guys, we really try to make sure that you're in good hands. If there's nudity in the project, we try to get as specific as possible, and we're upfront with the production. I know we deal with that a lot. Gender pronouns, I want to make sure that we're as respectful as possible for all that.
Yeah.
And then prepping our teams, even going down to payroll and saying, hey guys, this person, their gender pronouns are da-da-da-da-da, even though their legal name might be so-and-so. We're dealing with a lot of sensitive information, and we want to make sure that that's handled very well and very sensitively. And then also when trouble arises, I work in actors casting, so it's easy for actors to talk. And I'm actually working on a show now, and
extras casting is
it's a whole other thing, but I'm just trying to say when an actor complains on social media with their peers versus emailing us directly and saying, hey, we got a problem. Can we talk about it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm going to work on it. Now, I can't speak for my colleagues on how involved they will, but something tells me my colleagues would want to do something about it if there was a legitimate issue on set. Like I wasn't given enough water, or we didn't get fed a second meal, or they messed up my time card, or so-and-so was disrespected in front of me and I didn't like that, or, something like that. Well, tell me. I can't do anything until if I hear about it third hand from a social media post like, hey, Michael, people are talking about your job. I'm like, well, it's technically my job, but I mean, at the same time, it's a production I'm casting. But again, and then I've had to privately message actors and just be like, hey, I don't mind that you spoke your words, but come to me, and then there's a lot more I can do on your behalf.
Yeah. Trust Michael
Trust
Druck.
the process. Well,
Trust the process.
Yeah, trust the process, and then also just again, I will advocate for you, and I will make sure that things get handled, and unfortunately things do happen that are outside my control or
Sure.
out of everyone. I don't know what happens once you get on set, so I just communication's great. I love when actors report back to, hey, we had a great shoot, thank you so much, everyone was great. Awesome. Now I know that client's great. I had hey, Michael, just thought I wasn't used and it was kept for 13 hours. So then that helps me because then I can be like, hey guys, next time you book them, use them or lose them, or
Sure.
something like that. And I'm not afraid to I'm probably more direct with my clients and a lot of my colleagues are very honest because again, what they don't realize is whether they're traveling in from LA or New York or whether they're based out of here as a production company, we have to work with the same pool of talent.
Sure.
So, a production can get a very bad reputation really fast. So I'm there to kind of protect them in a way.
Oh, 100%.
And just make sure,
Yeah.
hey, you hired me for 6 weeks of casting. You screwed the pooch, pardon my French, on the second week. Then great. It's going to make it harder for me to get you people the third week.
Yeah.
Because you have a bad reputation.
Yeah.
Every time they hear
Now you got X amount of actors saying that was hell.
Yeah. It has bad PR, So,
Mm.
But again, deal with the punches as much as they come. But I'm thankful for the actors that know that we're an open line of communication and we'll handle it hopefully as soon as we hear it or in a timely manner. But you had brought up the fun word, actress casting.
That's how I've heard. I heard of you myself, and
Well, that's how I got my name in town. Well, really, what happened in 2012.
So you saw
I-
what was valuable as far as like getting your name out there and just starting somewhere.
If we want to back up a little more, I don't want to go about my whole history, but I worked as a
Sure.
booking agent in San Antonio, a small San Antonio talent agency no longer exists, but that was good for me because I got to know that casting directors from an agent's point of view, and I know how to service people based on what a talent agent's needs are, what an actor's needs are, what a casting director's needs are, and it was a totally different ball game. You had 3 casting directors in Austin. You had maybe 2 or 3 in Dallas. I think 1 or 2 in Houston. 1 in San Antonio.
Okay.
So there's about like half the number, but they had all the work then. And there was like probably half the number of agencies too. But I was so happy to come at a time where things were kind of changing. Like they were still faxing lists of actors who they wanted to see. They were still overnighting headshots. Definitely all the auditions were in person. There was no self-tape. Breakdown services, Actors Access, all those online platforms were starting to happen in Texas. And it was a big deal to email a submission. It was. I remember 2004 or 5 having meetings with the casting directors and the agencies and them saying, if we email the submission instead of overnight it, it takes 5 minutes, and doesn't cost any, and we don't have to charge the actors a fee for overnighting the FedEx and all this stuff. So it was just nice to come at that change in our industry, especially in Texas. And, color headshots were happening from black and white because it was just as cheap. And then I did that I think I got a lot of respect from my peers because I was the young kid with tenacity. I would cold call the casting companies and because I didn't know any better and asked what they needed. And I got the whole don't call us, we'll call you. But I think my tenacity helped because they were like, well, can you help us book 10 extras for a Robert Rodriguez film?
Sure.
Sure, I'll help you.
Yeah.
And then pretty soon I became like the casting director's friend.
Almost like an MLM scam in a way.
Me and, hey,
Do you know
Michael,
10 people?
I really need 10 people. I really need this. I really need that. And so I went about as far as I could agenting without actually owning my own agency. And I thought about it for a couple of years, but I lost the love for repping actors. And I tip my hat off to agents who are good at that job and who enjoy it every day and who are able to make a living at it. But it's totally changed over the years. And I was casting in the sense that, I would get called by production companies. Hey, we were told you can help us find some extras, or I'm casting an indie film. Where's some good? And then actors, I probably took so many coffee meetings within a 4-year period of which agency should I sign with and who should I go with? And keep in mind, I'm not getting paid to do any of this. I'm like the person who's referring people to other people, and whether they know I did that or not.
And you're just learning yourself and already getting asked for guidance.
Right, exactly. And then I spent some time in New York just to kind of get the heck out of Texas and learn a few new trades and work with some other directors and production companies and just live life, get the heck out of here, lose some weight, all that.
It takes a while to get out of Texas.
It does.
You need to sometimes.
And there were those people who were like, you're not really going to move. And I'm like, yeah, I am going to move. Thank you so much.
Going to move to another city in Texas.
And go to the biggest city. Might as well. And I thrived there. I loved it. But
awesome.
A family matter brought me back home, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. You always got to be there for family.
Of course.
We ended up in Austin, and Austin had always been my playground, had always been a place where to work. San Antonio was home for years, and my hometown, but just an hour away.
Can always drive there.
Exactly. And so I needed part-time work, and the only thing I could think of that I could actually put myself out there for was casting. I was like, I can run camera a little. I'm not really an editor. I'm a horrible PA. Don't hire me to be a PA.
PA is easy.
I can sign talent in for you. I was a commercial PA one day, and I respect PA so much. Because you're the bigger guy, and move that ladder and go run that water and make sure the firefighter doesn't fall down, and hand out some cheese in your free time, and go pick up this person from the airport. No, not that entrance, this entrance. Don't you know better? It's like, no. And just for 48 hours, it was just work.
You are a little bit of a ping pong ball.
Exactly. So I didn't really respond well to that energy, but I was like, I'm a good self-starter. So I was like, well, what else? And I'd been wanting to get into the extras game because I was like, it just seemed like a wide open market, and there was an indie film that was needing a casting coordinator. So basically someone to be on set and, book them, like basically an all-in-one extras person.
Sure.
And it was Brian Poizer's Love and Air Sex, which was the bounce back. And
cool.
It was a pretty ambitious production because, it's like over 500 extras. And
oh, wow.
Low budget, but it was a really interesting time where there was a lot of young up-and-coming crew who I've come up with along the years. Like, they were young, and now they're all, like, prominent Austin filmmakers and crew members and stuff like that. So it was nice to be a part of that team.
You come up with a generation of people. Right.
And although I didn't officially get the job, a colleague of mine got it, and then she turned around and said, I can't do the job. I'm like, well, then why did you say you could do the job? So it was like I was basically trained under fire from that one. I split the job with another casting director, but really I did most of the work, and the crew could see the sweat on my brow. Like, they could see me there every day signing talent in, paying them $40 cash with an envelope of $5,000 on 6th Street, and just trying my hardest to get these extras booked, and just pleading with people, hey, I know it's only $20, but you're gonna have a great time. And I thought that's how all productions were. I didn't know anything about standard pay and pay vouchers and all that stuff. So, but it was a good, being baptized by fire experience. And again, everyone sees you when you're on a set working every day. And so they all had their pet projects. Oh, you need extras? Call that guy Michael. So I became the indie-friendly extras guy. And then we're talking about indie-friendly. And then commercials found me 2 years later. A really prominent commercial producer found me and said, look, because everyone does extras with disdain, I think, at one point or another. They like that extras invoice, but then do they really like casting extras? No, they usually have their assistant or their associate handle it. I'm hands-on. I do most of it myself. And over the years, I do have assistants and helpers, but at the end of the day, my eye sees everyone that the client sees, so I'm able to, kind of tweak the list, if you will, oh, they no-showed for me on a job, or they're crazy on a set. I love this person. Let's put them in, all that stuff. So I'm able to give my eye, and so I know that that's going to be more smooth for my client too, or we need more diversity. We need to add all that fun stuff.
Well, of course.
But, exactly. So, but I'm able to have my 2 cents before I send something off to a client. But I basically got a lot of commercial clients from certain producers because they wanted one person to call for commercial extras in Texas. And I know other people do get those calls, but I would say 80% of the time, if it's a working commercial line producer in Texas, I get that call. And I'm very honored to do so. And I like commercials. They're in, they're out. I'm able to offer the actors, who I also work with on film and TV projects, a good day rate. Hey, who wants to make $250? Who wants to be a SAG extra? Make a living at, or somewhat of a living, or a better living. So then when I call them for the lower paying, but it's a film, like, hey, who wants to do, like, I'm so proud of the work I did on the film Little Woods. Nia DaCosta is the director, and she's up. When I talk about up and coming, I mean, she just did Jordan Peele's. What film did he just do?
Us?
No.
It was a couple years ago, actually.
No, it hasn't been released yet. Candyman. She just did Candyman.
Oh,
And
Jordan Peele's doing that?
And
That's awesome.
She's going to be directing Captain Marvel too, so the Marvels. She's on her way. Like, she's
Whoa.
on her way. And out of every director, first of all, it was like a female-led production. I was one of the few lucky guys to be in it.
Yeah.
And then the cast was great. It's Tessa Thompson right before her big break. She had just done Thor, but she was the most humble person you meet. Guys, I mean, and extras were never on set. I mean, that bounce back was kind of a weird scenario because they needed someone on set. But I'm always separated, and extras casting never gets invited to rap parties or anything like that because no one knows us. And we're usually the one who just has like probably
just think like
a
12
good or a bad relationship with our ADs. You know, if they assistant directors, depending on who they've hired, or sometimes I'll just be like, talk to my assistant. I don't want to talk to you the rest of the day,
right.
Or payroll if there's an issue. But that show was just so special to me because it was just a small number of really curated actors. And, see, that's the thing with extras casting. I just, what gets me every time is there's such a contradiction of props who eat. They're treated like a number on a set, but then I'm being told creatively, and, it's also a detriment to me, like, because you're just the extras casting director. You're not the principal.
Okay.
I get a lot of that. And
I hear that.
They also tell me,
you're trying to kind of bend out of that.
These people need to act, too. Oh, okay, so you're telling me you want props who eat, who are paid a crap rate, but they need to be able to take direction and be a good actor.
Yeah.
So which one do you want? Do you want an actor who happens to not have lines, or do you want a prop who eats and can beat anyone? It's 98.6 degrees. Like, come on. So I have to always, like, kind of advocate for the actors that way. And, and even when I'm negotiating their rate and my rate, it's like, and even just my job, like the Netflix show I'm doing right now, I'm now hopping around a bit, but
the
I'm
plus minus.
Plus minus.
Cool.
We're casting babies, bands, stand-ins, featured actors who are being handpicked by an Oscar-nominated director.
Nice.
Is that just extras, or are they actors who happen to not have lines? So, I mean, I'm proud of the work we're doing on that show, and I'm proud of the work we did on Little Woods, because Neo would actually call me every week, and I'm like, for the director to call the extras casting director is a big deal. She called me, and she'd be like, hey, and I'm like, hi. And she'd be like, I just want to thank you for the work that you're doing. You're welcome, And I will say this, too, about Nia DaCosta, if you're listening, or if anyone who worked on that show.
Little Woods.
She credited every extra, every background actor, and that never happens, guys. That never happens. So I'm just telling you, she's just such a good person inside and now good things are happening to her. So that's a director I would always be like, please just take my rate. I just want to work with them. Yeah. But I shouldn't have to because she's doing these huge studio projects now. But that was a good example of an extra show gone well. And,
awesome.
And yeah, I'm proud to do extras casting. I try not to do too many of I call them the 64 for 8 extras. Number one, guys, that's a cheap rate. This show I'm doing right now, I got y'all 80 for 8, which is $80 for 8 hours guaranteed, whether you work 1 hour or 8 hours, and then we get you overtime. So
then extra if you have a dope car.
Exactly. Basically. Oh, and then you add the bumps and stuff. But what I'm trying to say, guys, is we're highly aware that the rate for extras in Texas is low, like the base rate. Because, guys, people, dishwashers are leaving jobs now when they're not being paid $10 an hour or more. So that's my debate or my rebut to the producers that come in from out of town. I'm like, guys, you have to pay them a good wage. Now I was able to get featured extras like $120 a day, which is pretty decent for a film or TV show, non-union.
Is it a credits game to kind of move up from being an extra? So what kind of upgrades you to it, like a speaking line or something like that? Is it luck, just blind luck, or of course curation just to get on set
film
first?
And TV, it's harder because they've already cast those roles separately or
Sure.
are casting those, so they already know who they're going to give the line to. Now, if the director really likes you and pulls you aside and says, okay, I'm going to have you say a line, then they'll give you the SAG paperwork, and you'll know you're getting the upgrade. Otherwise, they can get into a lot of trouble.
Oh, sure.
So,
sure.
Is it as common? No. Commercially, yes. I always tell actors who just turn their nose up at extra work, I'm like, I understand. I don't like to be on set for 12 hours myself. It's hot work in Texas. It's long work. It's last minute work. And now you have to take COVID tests and all that stuff in between.
Yeah.
But what I will say, though, is commercial extras who work on a SAG union shoot who are already getting paid a good rate, say between $250 to almost $500, depending on what,
That's really
what
nice.
the scale is. Yeah, exactly. Sometimes 400, something like that. You're more likely to get upgraded because I will know going into the shoot, hey, we're booking 10 extras, 5 are going to get upgraded. And if you get upgraded to a commercial SAG shoot, you're going to get residuals, you're going to get a good session fee. Like, that's how you become SAG eligible. People ask me all the time, how do I become SAG eligible? Number one, I'm always like, just make sure that you just keep putting yourself out for work because, being a principal in a SAG job should do. I know there's the voucher system where you get so many commercial vouchers. I still don't know how all that works. People ask me, wasn't I supposed to get a voucher? I'm like, again, don't ask me about that. That's between you and SAG. And,
Gotcha.
But at the same time, I will help you. Like, typically, I'll be like, hey, call SAG, give them your social, and they'll tell you if you're SAG eligible or not. Or you should have already received a letter if you're eligible, because they want you to join. And then in Texas, I have my own opinion about that, how you probably want to stay SAG eligible until you go to a market where you need to be in the union. I do love our union and everything they've done for us. Not our union, because casting doesn't have a union. But
which means they should, yeah.
We should. I will say this. In LA and New York, I was saying earlier, SAG-AFTRA, they're great to work with, and we actually have great local reps and all that stuff too. But what I will say, it does hinder you being able to audition for non-union projects, which are a majority of our projects. And then if you choose to be in SAG, that's great. That just means it'll take away those non-union opportunities, but you're in the running specifically just for SAG jobs, and more power to you. You were ready for that upgrade in your life, and that's awesome. And that's also something between you and your reps to decide, your agent and all that, and your team.
Yeah.
But as far as casting, no, we don't have. I mean, yes, there's a SAG union in LA and New York. They're part of the Transpo union. DGA wanted nothing to do with us. If you watch Casting by, like, there's a whole conflict between casting directors.
Oh, I can't wait. Can't wait to hear the juicy lore of casting.
I haven't been fortunate enough to have benefits while being in casting in Texas, but maybe that'll change down the line. Maybe we can hop on some other union, but it would be nice to be able to get health benefits to work in casting here in Texas. But
definitely.
But maybe my ticket to that is just doing more LA work and being able to be in the LA union. But who knows? We do have the Casting Society of America, which I am not a member of yet. I will actually put in my application this year, and it's an affiliation.
I heard that on our previous show. I kind of peeked at it. Your colleagues are on there.
A few are. So Beth Sepko's in there, and
Vicky Boone.
Are there. Is Vicky in the CSA already?
Yeah.
Good for her.
She's on there.
It's been a while since I looked at that list. I do go to the RTOs every year, which is the Casting Awards.
And so that's awards for directors?
For casting.
For casting the right people?
So I go out there and I volunteer, and I hand out the tickets, but really it's just my 5 seconds with everyone. Like,
of course.
Hi, Sarah Finn, casting director of Marvel. How was your year? Or hi, Marcy Learoff. How are you? Or hey, so and so, agent at Innovative. How you doing?
Yeah.
So it's just the one night a year where we could all have our hair down and be dressed nice at the Beverly Hilton, where they do all the other awards, and just have our champagne and just be like, hey, how are you? Because we rarely get that up. We always say, let's do lunch, let's have coffee, but we're always too busy to even do that. So it's the one night a year where you can congratulate your colleagues.
Yeah, just kind of slow down a little bit,
hey,
realize.
I years ago, how are you doing? Oh, what are you working on now? So I think that's great for my business because I just get to know more people out there when I do my LA trips. But I mean, I'm going to go ahead and apply for the CSA. I mean, definitely wanted to make sure. What's keeping me from doing it, I just need to launch that dang website. Just because I do know they're going to want to do their homework, and they're like, is he legit? Click. Okay, click. So I do have a casting reel. My assistant's really good at updating our Vimeo page and putting a lot of our footage on there.
I was curious, how big is your team? Do you take on interns and things like that? Or
I started to this year.
You got some onboarding?
I usually keep it very boutique because, again, I'm pretty hands-on on a lot of the day-to-day aspects. But I do have my longtime associate, Adam, who's based out of LA. In fact, he moved out to LA when I moved back, so we kind of did like a do-si-do.
Yeah, waved at each other on the planes.
Exactly. So, and he's great. I kind of discovered him here. Like, he was doing casting in New York, New Jersey, and then he liked it. And then I brought him aboard and got him involved with another casting company for a short time. And he actually worked on Fear the Walking Dead and all that.
Awesome.
But the whole time he was assisting me, and then so I upgraded him to associate, meaning he can handle day-to-day that I do the final oversee. Like, literally, he can cast commercial solo with me, just making sure that everything's in the right spot, and he can handle the callback and everything like that. So he's definitely above an assistant. And then I do have a casting coordinator here who I work with on my extra shows. And then right now, though, my staff is kind of crazy big because the Netflix show alone, I need a coordinator, an assistant. There's two assistants that I pay out of pocket as needed because it's just such a big show. And then I'm on there too. And then I have interns floating around. In fact, the intern that came to me this semester, she got quickly promoted to assistant, and I told her, just stick around with me. We'll have plenty of work for you.
Awesome.
And then
somebody kind of showed up and
and then I had a couple of Dallas ones too, because I was working on a project in Dallas for about a month or two, and got some help up there. I have one still kind of lingering in Arlington who offers his help daily. And then I'll either have some stuff or I'll just let him off the hook, because I know. See, a lot of these interns are also just offering their time for free, and they have a lot of other gigs going on.
Sure.
And sometimes the day just won't work out for me. Like, I'll be like, I can get back to you in 2 hours, and then they're, oh, well, I leave for rehearsal at 4, and by the time they're really rocking and rolling, But they also serve their purpose. Like, I'll be like, hey, just update this resume for me, or reach out to these actors for blah, 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 and, that's a good help for me today.
Yeah, definitely.
But then I don't want to over-delegate.
Don't get locked out of Google.
That too, yeah. My nightmare happened. But
that was so just hearing about that and how you impacted, because a little bit about myself. I moved down from Minnesota a little over a year ago, just Midwesternville down here, down to Texas, because I saw how active the film community was down here. I've been working on film since about 2014. Mm-hmm. Mostly working on others' projects, and just kind of putting myself out there that way. So I'm really starting to try to bring back that energy and start putting into my own projects. So my point is when I saw that and how you reacted to that in all the film groups, and how you kind of just pushed right through and said, this is what's going. You just kind of put it in that same, kind of burst of casting calls. Hey, this isn't working anymore. Go to this now. And I saw that and I was like, wow, this guy has seen way worse than this.
Oh, I kept my cool. I think I did.
And
Yes.
and just went right through it. And I saw that, and that's what it just kind of hit something in the back of my brain of like, okay, this guy can handle anything. And
because
that's
I
the
have
kind of
seen
vibe
the
it put
worst,
out.
and the worst is yet to come. And it's like, so. Yeah, well, for everyone listening, and so I'm working on this Netflix show, and it was they're asking for high numbers for the show during COVID. They wanted originally 1,700 extras in a 4-week run, and that's a lot.
1,700,
but they went down to 13, or so. Let's say they were doing between 12 and 1,300 for the whole show. But this was also our busiest week, where we had like a group of 150 people on a Wednesday and another 150 on a Friday.
Right.
Like big numbers to do back to back. And then keep in mind, guys, we have to individually COVID test every single person.
Yeah.
Book and confirm them, get their results, send them their details. So we're probably communicating with all 400 plus people that week. At least 8 times before they even step foot on set.
Sure.
This is text messaging and emailing and all that. So it's a Saturday. We were actually ahead of the game because we had very little prep for the show, and so we'd been working tirelessly, like just without days off. And then this is going to be our easy weekend. And I was like, guys, let's just work 2 hours and just make sure we're good for Wednesday, and then we can have a day off tomorrow. And great, I had plans, and then one by one, each one of my assistants started saying, I was just locked out of the email. And I'm like, that's weird. Hey, I was just locked out. Okay, that's weird. And then the other one, my coordinator, she's like, my right hand for the show. And she was just like, yeah, we're all locked down. I was like, oh, crap, what happened? Basically, Google, I guess, on an algorithm thought that we were spamming people because I use a lot. Number one, I had to email a lot of people, like hundreds.
Yeah.
And then I use a lot of highlighting and a lot of bold. And I want to make it very user-friendly for someone to read, especially if they're reading on their tablet or their phone.
Of course.
So I guess I was told highlighting kind of highlights some stuff, no pun intended, or flags some stuff.
Sure.
And so, they never gave us a direct, reasoning, but it sounded like it was an automatic thing that happened on the weekend. They shut down over the weekend. Google has no weekend active live number. And so, we were shut out. And so we lost all our files, all our people, everything. So I didn't know I knew what to do. We just had to start from scratch. So that weekend, I didn't know who we sent to testing. Because, I had already sent my batch of people to testing, COVID, but I didn't know who because I just lost all my files. And no, guys, there was no backup, no nothing. Normally, we might export some of our files.
You might have like a call history on your phone or something like that.
No, it wasn't even that. No, we were locked out. And Google was supposed to allow us to, I'm talking about you, Google. We're supposed to allow us to
Google.
download our files even if you're locked out while they're deciding what's going on, and it still wouldn't let us do it. So there was like a double whammy of bad things happening. So we had to, overnight I had to tell people just email our general casting email until you hear otherwise, and then I'd have to create, and then I decided 24 hours later that this wasn't coming back up, so whether it was or not, so I had to create another email. And
so you created a new email from scratch.
And then I had to just start over that whole week.
And just blast that out as soon as possible.
Yeah, we ended up overbooking a little bit that week, but that's fine because we've gone under on some days and over on some days, so it worked out, but we got it done, and, but transparency, I think, is very important in any situation. I emailed our producers right away and said, guys, this is where we're at.
Yeah.
I feel really confident that we're still going to hit our number. That just means we're going to have to power through the whole weekend. I just wanted you to know now. Because you never want to be caught with your pants down. And, sorry, guys. But you know what I mean? You never want to say, true. I wish you had told us sooner than we could have. I'm giving them the full opportunity to know what's going on. And they appreciated it. The top producer was like, what do you need from us? I go, honestly, nothing. But we just wanted to tell you this is where we're at. So, and my team was great, because again, these poor overworked people who were just, I thought we were going to get some time off. And it had been bad leading up to the shoot because we had literally 2 weeks of prep, and then the first week of production was really tough. So imagine just working almost 3 weeks without a day off. It was that last day
all day,
that,
every day.
Almost broke the camel's back. And I told people, guys, just sleep tomorrow. Just don't even worry about anything. And then I ended up finishing up the week for them just so they could rest. So, and I even said that too. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. I go, what other casting director would tell everyone, you go home, I'm going to finish it. Yeah. And that's how I am as a boss too. I will never ask anyone to do anything that I haven't done already or aren't going to do already or will do after you're done.
Hey, Mike, how do I do this? Oh, well, let me tell you.
Well, let me show you. And see, we're working virtually too because, again, I don't have that brick and mortar and I'm not going to pay hundreds of dollars just so I can sit across from them. But I have been putting in that time, though, too. I have been meeting up with my staff usually on a busy week.
Yeah.
I'll probably rent a suite and that way I have a business center and then I have my own room and we'll literally just powwow, we'll order takeout, I take care of my people, and we'll have a good time, actually. We actually enjoy each other's company. I think I've picked really...
It's like a
in order to work with it, you got to have a
happens.
Good sense of humor about yourself. You got to not take life too seriously. You got to have faith in humanity, even though people have asked you 5 times what they need to email us in order to be considered. Have patience. And I even tell people, I go, you got to...
Get the subject line right.
We get the same questions over and over, but it's their first time ever trying to put themselves out for this type of work. So I got to be very, compassionate with that. And I even teach them that a little bit too,
Cool.
But then I want to say I make sure people are accountable for their actions. If they said, oh, all of a sudden I'm not available, I'll be like, cool, so what just happened in the past hour? Sometimes I'll ask them just because, they have been booked for weeks. I want an actor to tell me, hey, there's a chance that this might not work or something. I'm just trying to let them know sometimes it's a domino effect. And I just want people to know that, just being, again, just like I was transparent with my client, actors and talent and extras and stand-ins should be transparent with us. oh, probably it's not a good idea to take the job on your graduation week or when so-and-so's planning a vacation for you or, or
Right.
the week you don't have a car or, just all
Yeah.
these things. And I get it. We don't think the left hand doesn't talk to the right. But just even being
Yeah.
transparent with us lets us book backup people and lets us, especially in this COVID world,
Yeah.
we're not able to rush call people. And, even if I wanted to on this particular project, because the finances, typically on a job with extras, you're allowed what's called an overbook. So if they want 100 extras, usually we book 115. So inevitably everyone who wakes up sick or partied a little too much or just says,
Right.
I don't want to do the job after all.
Yeah.
Those people, you still hit your number. Oh, those people. Ask me
That's
if I have an
hilarious.
opinion.
Those people.
There's some good colleagues.
They're called flakes.
There's some
Flakes.
colleagues we've actually talked about recently, whose names we brought up, who actually said they're getting out of the extras game because it's just a lot of work, and it's not just because it's work.
Is that
it's a lot of
Miss
work.
Miss Boone?
I'm not going to say who,
Okay.
but I'm just going to say. But I'm just saying it is a lot of wear and tear on the staff, and
Sure.
it's not because of COVID. It's a 7-day-a-week job. So it's hard. Like we try to take Sundays off, but you're having to check in a little bit, or because before back in the day, if it was Monday through Friday show, I'd send them their call times on a Friday, overbook, maybe check on it on Saturday, and then go away for the weekend, and then Monday starts a new week. But because of the way COVID is, and we need everyone tested 48 hours before, it's just created so much more work. And it's created more work for everyone. Because we're not able to get people confirmed until the last minute, it's created more work for costumes and for art. The AD department's really got to read our skins, which is our Excel sheet that has everyone's name and rate and all that on. The producers have to take the accounting's having to deal with all these vouchers coming in, a lot of them with discrepancies, so
Sure.
it's a beast, if you will. And then
it is a casting industry.
We're getting inquiries, casting. We're getting inquiries almost a year after the fact because, again, if one person doesn't get their check or if they forgot to put their apartment number or they moved right after and didn't think to forward their address or they were living with their girlfriend and she ripped up the check, he or she ripped up the check. I've heard every excuse, guys. It's so funny. And so we're still dealing with that like a year after the show. And we're having to track people down. We're having to so when you sign up for a show, it's not just the show. You're actually signing up for a lot of admin after the show.
Sure.
So this particular show, I might take some time off and be like, if you have an email, get it in now, because Michael's going to take 2 weeks off after that.
Yeah. We'll process you. We'll call you later.
But that's extras. I really enjoy doing extras casting still. I am pigeonholed because of it. I do feel like I have something extra to prove, because even though Beth Sepko and Vicky Boone and Brock Allen have all done extras casting too and do it very well, I also get but you're an extras casting director. Do you do principal? So in a way, I kind of think that's kind of not fair. I'm like, well, that's funny. They do both. How come I'm not considered both? But I understand why, because I got my start doing extras, and then I came in the principal end. So, and I get it. It's a fair question.
Yeah.
But it depends on how you say it.
But they're trying to push you down a little bit.
Text me, first of all, don't text me. But second of all, when they say, do you just do extras casting? And then my sassy comment is usually, I don't know, are you just an extra? It's like, but,
I love that.
But you got to be careful about what you say. Say, hey, Michael, if you do any principals casting, please consider me, or what do I need to do to get on your radar for that? Then I'd be like, okay, well, sometimes I go through just agencies, or sometimes I do both, or sometimes I'm pretty good at putting the word out. And like I said about new faces, I like a nice mix of the usual suspects and then the new ones who I've gotten to know through my extras work or just that are on my profile, So, but yeah, again, I feel like I have to fight that little. Again, remember, I'm the newer kid on the block.
Yeah.
Even though I've been around for a bit.
Since 2003?
I've been in the business since then. I've been casting since 2012. You got to remember, Vicky's been casting since 2002. Beth Sepko's been.
Well, you've had a branded name since 2012.
Beth has been casting since the 90s. Brock Allen's been casting since, they've been in NTC since the early 2000s, but Tony Cobb Brock's been casting since the early 90s.
Okay.
The cast station came in from LA, so then they have that whole thing going on.
Gotcha.
And they branded their name as commercials. I love the Burtons. They're great people, too. Brad and Kim Burton and Vicky Boone, too. I will say, there's a good number of us who are really good colleagues for each other.
Yeah.
I was actually able to text Vicky.
Well, I've heard all the casting people are in one office space, right?
Well, no. So
Yes
let me
and
correct that.
no?
So the Red Building in Austin Studios has Vicky Boone and Beth Sepko. So two
Okay.
of them are there.
Okay.
The Burtons and myself and a few others, we kind of remote office depending on the project.
Okay.
I'm actually looking at some space right now. We'll see if it's worth it. But
Kind of
actually, I
freelancing a
saw a
little bit?
space in North Lamar that I liked. But again, because I don't need a brick and mortar, but I found a really actually economical place. But maybe for all my colleagues who don't have their official space, they might want to rent it out too. Who knows? But
Yeah.
that's why I'm not also another fan of us going live anytime soon, because I'm just like, well, save that dang money every month. We don't know what the industry is going to do. It's going to go up and down, up and down.
Yeah, true, true. I feel like the summer, like spring and summer, is a high point for the industry.
Well,
I
Cast
think.
Station too, yeah, they have their own space, all these, but they got all that commercial money coming in, and they share
true.
space with Carol Hickey and all that stuff too.
Would you say commercials are year-round commercial?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And see, that's why I like
And
my
it's
nice
just,
mix of my commercial extra work. I do get principal extra work on a more of a boutique level,
Cool.
and then I get my feature principals and my feature extras kind of round out the rest. But what I'm trying to say is, so two of the casting directors are in a space right now. But it's interesting, you're at 501 Studios right now, and when I started in this business in the 2000s, Beth Sepko and Donnie's Hardy had an office here. Joe Edna Boulding, who was is a casting pioneer in Texas. She's now in New Mexico.
Cool.
She started officing here too. In fact, when they started 501 Studios, so there's a lot of Austin history here. I
Awesome.
don't think a casting director is here right now. I've looked at this space over the years, but again, I'll want a space. I like the idea of a space because I'm also one of those people. I like to get my work done somewhere and then go home.
Yeah, me too. I like having kind of work outside of your bedroom
nice.
kind of thing.
It's nice, and I've also enjoyed teaching more. I was teaching more during before the pandemic. I would do audition workouts and stuff like that. I like being able to reach actors and just to get to work with them and collaborate with other casting people too from time to time. That doesn't happen too often, but yeah, no, it's always a pleasure to get to know some. And I've also returned the favor of up and coming casting directors. I've definitely passed over on some work to some of the newer ones. I think like Ronnie Hummel's doing some casting in Dallas. June Griffin Garcia's in San Antonio. She does indies. I
That's
definitely
awesome.
feel like she's on that list, like when they cast for indies. And there's like a few people who are popping up now who are getting their names started. So it's nice to know I'm kind of in that middle gap. It's like, okay, cool. I don't have as long or as big of a resume as say Vicky or Tony, but I'm starting to get similar calls to what they would get. Not saying all of them, but I'm definitely on that list of, a show's coming and needs extras. I'll be one of the 4 that they call.
So do you get calls from people who have just, of course, referrals and say, okay, not to pat your ego once more, but just, hey, I heard you're the casting guy in Texas.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're a line producer in LA or New York, there's only so many of us
here
in Texas. So I will be on that list sometimes. Again, depends on they might call other producers for referrals, other directors for referrals.
Okay.
I kind of find it flattering when I do get called for a job and don't get it, because I always wonder, who got it? So,
who got it?
I'll talk to some of my producer friends, like Jane or John Doe was up for the same role. Of course, did not roll, but we're like auditioning too. No, not funny. But and then I'm like, who got it? Okay, that makes sense. They've done a lot more in this field than I have, or hey, they've been around. And sometimes it's just preference. Sometimes a producer will want to hire me, but then the director has a previous relationship with another casting director, or an ad agency, vice versa, has worked with this casting company. Well, therefore, they're going to want. See, clients like a lot of familiarity.
Yeah.
They like to call the same ones over and over. And hey, I depend on that too. I depend on the same clients calling me over and over and over too.
Yeah.
So
creating those business relationships.
Right. So you're
just
there
establishing something.
And I like getting in on the ground level of these younger filmmakers or these people who are transitioning maybe from being an AD to a director now. I'm their casting guy. I like how I'm not trying to put a gender pronoun there. I'm just trying to say I'm their person who they call when they need casting, even if it's just a small project.
I'm curious about something.
Give it to me. Yeah, we'll go from there.
I'm curious. I just thought of this. Like, if there was like a show, if I was like wanted to become like a comedian or something like that, could I go to you and be like, "Hey, Michael, I want to pad this room. Just get a bunch of extras in here to laugh at my jokes."
We've done that before.
Oh, really?
I mean, we don't do it all the time.
I love that. Or just like start a parade. You're the guy to talk to if you just want to do like a flash mob of something.
Like, I think I remember when Jen Kirkman came, she had like audience casting. I didn't work on that one, but I knew colleagues who did. And Jamie Fallon, I think someone else did that.
Yeah, he did a thing down here.
Yeah,
Who
did that? Oh,
in the middle of Austin.
That one. I think that's the cast station's like sister company.
Okay.
But yeah, I remember. Yeah, they do that. I've definitely. There was a music executive who was loaded. He had money, and every year he would do a showcase for his band called Wartoad. Ooh, I probably shouldn't say that, but it's an Irish punk rock band. And he literally would have a backpack full of money and be like, "Hey, Michael, so can you just get us some people who are really into it? And it's going to be an open bar and free food. And how much do they need?" I'm like, "You're wanting me to pay people to drink?" And like, okay, I don't know, $75 sounds good, Like, so they would get an envelope full of money to hang out for 2 hours to jam out with an open bar and food.
I'm sold.
I know, right?
I could
that
be
was
method
so
there.
easy. I literally just have them. We would literally grab the money, hide ourselves in the corner, put it into envelopes. And then he would pay me cash, like a good amount. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
Like I felt like a baller. Like, "Oh, is this legal? Okay, cool. So here's my invoice." Thank you.
The FBI now knows
we
your
did an
name,
invoice in W-9 IRS. So hey, we actually filed our stuff. But yeah, and that was always like, yeah, he stopped calling like about a year or two. But maybe COVID had something to do with it. But I remember for a good 3 or 4 years, it was just like, wow, this guy really paid me to get people to cheer for his band. That's kind of cool, So.
That's cool though, because just having a guy connected with I just need 20 people to do a weird parade down the road. Let's go do it.
He's loaded, and I kind of
sounds like
back
fun.
up because he wanted me to do the same thing in other cities. I was like, oh man, had I just like written my own ticket and been like, yeah, if you fly me in and get me this hotel, and I can find you people, and kind of make it sound like I do it all the time, but. That's a whole different life. That's more like coordinating.
Fake it till you make it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I do produce too, so that's something else I do. I've produced indies and.
I was curious about that. Do you find projects that you really are inspired by and you want to put money
collaborate
into?
very well with.
Okay.
And then it's like I'm already casting, and now I want to do more with them. Like whether it's helping them find the budget or kind of managing. I'm more like the mother hen when it comes to like managing all the assets and helping them crew up and getting a good deal on catering. And, because I do have so many vendors that I work with, day to day. When it's nice to be able to call in those favors and still pay them. Yeah. But then still just have like.
Where they go, we're going to have a great time at this
gig. I work really well with. Or, hey, this is a costumer you should really go with. And that's great when it's on the indie level because it's you and usually one other filmmaker, you and a small group of people to collaborate with. And I've done it. I tell people I'm very picky about those jobs because number one, it limits what I'm able to take on casting wise because it does take a lot more of my day to day time, but I do get so much more out of it.
Sure.
And then and coordinating is different too. I've totally coordinated and done extras casting for films where, not only am I doing the extras, but I'm also managing the day to day and helping manage basically the right hand to the producer.
Of course.
So that can get really stressful. I took on a job like that recently and. When you're the assistant coordinator, it's different because you're just more managing PAs and making sure, that the crafty person's good and you're helping manage the books and you're processing paperwork and maybe you're kind of more of a liaison with the actors, so that's kind of fun.
It's a beautiful system production.
But then when you're coordinating, you're literally in charge of everything. And so I was like, guys, I have no time to do your extras casting and this. It's 2 separate jobs. And so... I think after that job recently, I was just like, producing's fun. Like, it'll come when the time's right. And definitely I want to exercise more of my creative genes. Actually, I was talking to another casting colleague, Sarah Dowling, about that because she's a really good writer. Yeah. And she's like, you're actually a good producer, too. I've seen how you will and deal. And I'm like, thanks. But I go, I definitely want to. She's like, well, why don't we just do more of that? I go, again, we're talking about the whole, when you're younger, when you're in your 20s, you're just like, why can't I produce a project? Why can't I write this? Why can't I just do something? When you're in your 30s, you get a little more, cautious with your free time. You're more like, well, I don't know. Should I do this? Should I not do this? And so, I think we should just throw caution to the wind and just create more work. And even if we are, because that was something interesting I brought up when I was talking to a casting colleague about this. we're everyone's cheerleader in a way. Like we're there to support the director, we're support the writer, we're there to support the actor, we're supporting so many people that it's almost like we got to be very careful with when we start to exercise our own creative voice, because then even though we're able to be creative within our own confines of talking about an actor, but the minute we start to say, we also write too, and then we're like, oh, it becomes a different conversation.
It's just a different world.
So you have to really just pick the right people to collaborate.
It's hard to wiggle out of working for other people in any capacity.
Yeah, because you're literally like just their support system, and they're used to turning you to that. So in a way, it's great. I feel like a caretaker for so many people.
Yeah.
And but at the same time, it can be, I don't know, it could just.
It's a caring guy.
Yeah.
Michael Druck cares. That should be your take on.
We have to take our
Michael Druck cares
too. Yeah.
Blake, do you have any questions?
Yes.
Oh, we got questions. Let's do it.
He goes, yes. All right, take it away, bud.
So you said that you network with actors, right?
I do.
I happen to be an actor myself.
Okay.
Yeah, you start on something.
Hello.
So can you get me onto some auditions?
Well, here's the thing. I think everyone needs to still approach every casting call the same way. It's great when I know you. There's several different ways to see a casting call that I'm posting, but literally alone any other casting director. There's some where we only go through agencies and we use Actors Access or Breakdown Services or casting networks. And I'm more than happy to give you those post meeting just so you can set up your own profile.
Yeah.
And then if we post on social media, usually we're casting a wider net, or we want indie actors for a certain reason. So I would expect you to still email just like everyone else did, but I'd be like, it's okay if you throw in a reminder, hey, Mike.
Oh yeah, of course I'll do that.
Look forward to possibly reading for you. That just tells me really fast, like, because also I might not be looking through every submission. It might be my associate doing the first pass, or my assistant who's tagging people who are right for the role, and then I'm going to do a final look-see. So then when they see the note, hey, Michael, someone wrote you a personal note too, then I'll be like, oh, who is that person? Oh, yeah, I do want to see them. So add them to the list. So that's great. Yeah, I do think a lot of actors think just because we're social or just because, I know them in more of a relaxed environment, they'll Facebook message me, hey, by the way, I'm available. Like, great. Cool. Like, but at the same time.
Hey, Mike, by the way,
yeah,
I know you've been calling me every day.
It's like, did you email me? And they're like, no, not yet, but I'm available. Great, cool. Make sure to do, there's a method to the madness.
Yeah.
And usually it's because we have like 8 other things going on.
Sure.
And I'm thankful for being this busy, but at the same time, if we don't do it a certain way, then you just won't get considered for a lot of stuff. So that's the best way, and when I'm saying networking to know people, there's a lot of different ways. Even if it's just like, there's this lovely actor who relocated from LA. She's done a lot of great episodic, like Mad Men and a lot of other stuff. And, she actually just sent me a quick hello the other day. And I liked that. I was like, well, I did talk to her months ago. Or, hey, when she moved into town, we had a nice cordial. Have you gotten in to read from these other people? Or how's the transition been? She's a SAG actor, so, I might not see her for every job. I even told her that. I was like, well, if it's a cool SAG film and you see me posting about it or you see the casting notice, be sure to drop me a line.
Yeah,
so I know that, you're interested in it. So I like, casual encounters. Just make sure that it's followed up by your professional submission.
Yeah.
So I know that you're good to go. Consider that more like a pitch, because we get that in LA a lot, where the agent will have already submitted the actor, but they're also sending a follow-up email. Hey, making sure you saw so-and-so. They were just on Riverdale, and they're amazing. And I'm like, huh. And I'll be like, did you submit them? Oh, they did. Cool, sure. I'll request a self-tape from them.
Perfect.
Boom. There we go. And then that's that. So that's how you initially get your foot in the door. And then after a while, once I get to know your work, I'm able to just call you in directly and be like, hey, before I put the word out, would you want to read for this? Or, hey, let me send you the script. That's if I have time, obviously. But I've liked that I've been able to cultivate a group of actors who I've known done really good work. And that helps me be able to, again, that's what every good casting director should do, be able to have your own mental lists and lists of people that you can, ideas lists is what we call them. Sure. So we're not just relying on submissions to come in for every job. That's just more supplemental and just adds more people to the party.
And that's part of
Cool.
your reputation on the staff side with your colleagues is your roster of people that you can get on.
Right, and it's unofficial roster because we don't officially represent talent. I cringe when I hear the word casting agent because there's no such thing. It's either your talent.
Casting agent doesn't exist.
Yes, you're a talent
Not a
agent
thing.
and you represent actors.
Okay.
Or you're a casting director and you're representing the project and you're funneling the right actors for it.
Okay.
I don't know where casting agent came from. I think it's probably an old studio system thing when actors were owned by the studio and you would have a casting agent in-house to kind of funnel through the actors.
Right.
But in present day, there's no such thing. And I feel like it just gets misused so much. So, but again, every casting director is nodding right now because they know there's no such thing. Don't call me a casting agent because again, I don't want people to think, because then I do get that message
Unless
a lot.
you want to annoy them.
No, I do get the message a lot. What will it take to be on your roster? I go, well, number one, I don't have a roster. Number two, just submit if you're right for the role. Like that's just what it is.
Yeah.
And then you might get seen. But again, if you also have good work that you want to show me, hey, Michael, I just did this indie. If you have a minute, take a look at the clip. Or, hey, this trailer drops tomorrow. Check it out. I get tagged on a lot of stuff on Instagram. That's what I like about Instagram is it's just I get to see a lot of content without it bombarding an inbox per se. It's just being tagged in it. And then I get to know your work. And I get to be like, oh, yeah, they have done some cool stuff. Or, hey, congrats. Or, hey, actually, I just got this breakdown that came in. I think you should probably read for this, too. So things organically, work begets work. And I do believe in what Risa also taught me, good work gets noticed, and actors always want to know, how do I get the agent? How do I get the manager? How do I get blah, blah, blah? Do good work. If you do good work, it'll get seen. And I know that sounds so vague, but it's true. Whether you're doing your little box theater job or you're doing improv at the Groundlings or whether you just did a short film or you're on this cool TikTok that went viral or you have the scripts kind of floating around or you did this festival entry that everyone's talking about. That's how you get seen. You don't get seen from the work you don't do. You get seen from the work. And then believe me, if it's good enough, it'll get seen. And but and it's okay to be proud of your work and show me your work. And
absolutely.
And that's again how we get to know who you are. Mm-hmm.
So I've seen you talk about this in other shows and how indie filmmakers, free sets, people just learning their craft, keep going, right?
Mm-hmm. It doesn't
keep
stop.
going, keep doing it.
It's like the stock market, unless you're Robin Hood. No, I'm just kidding. But it just keeps going. And I admire working actors, and that's I'm so glad about my time in LA too. Just to see working actors, just how they do. I was lucky enough to office in an acting studio.
Yeah.
So it was great because all these actors would just come in every day and do their work, and they may have done a pilot a week ago, but guess what? They're back in class next week, or they may have been on hold for a really big national commercial. Guess what? They're back in class the next week. That's just they're gladiators. They have to just keep working, and they have to keep bettering themselves, and they know that this whole journey doesn't stop.
Yeah.
And so those to me, I love the working actors, and it doesn't mean that they're working all the time. It just means they're working towards working, and they got to put themselves into a place both mentally, physically, and just in the work to where they can be in a position to be ready when those calls do happen. Mm-hmm.
There you go, Blake. Anything else to add?
Yes, the classes you mentioned out in California, are they free or do you have to pay?
Oh, you pay for those, and there's great local classes
Hollywood
too.
classes.
I mean, they're in North Hollywood, but Carol Hickey has a lot of classes here. Laurel Voudray, who's here, she has in the moment. Okay. I'm a huge fan of Mona Lee. Mona Lee is like my local coach, if you will. She's the Earth mom I never had, and Linklater's trained with her and all them. And there's a reason why she's been around for long. Marco Perella's great. There's a lot of great acting. I mean, acting classes are whatever you make out of them. But I think just to do some good scene work and to practice your auditioning, even just getting together. I know people in LA who are pinching the pennies and they can't afford hundreds of dollars for an 8-week session of a class. They just do scene work with each other and take turns taping each other and play back. That's really how you get better.
Yeah.
And improv classes are great, especially for starting out, getting that core, getting that foundation, scene study. During COVID, I took some self-tape classes because that helped me be on the actor's end to see about like how we're focusing this two-dimensional like box into a good audition.
Yeah, kind of trying to
But
zero in what you want.
It also helped me be a more impassionate reader to my actors, to be present with them even though I'm not sitting across from them like I normally would. So, a lot of good classes will cost you. I do understand it's an investment, but, I would hope that a doctor who's operating on me has paid at least more than $100 to get training to
That's
cut me
true.
open.
That's true.
Same thing if you're on a $3 million project. I hope that, you've invested some time and some money and some blood, sweat, and tears to get to where you need to go. But, I do believe you get what you pay for, but at the same time, do what you can do right now. Like, I know there's these one-off classes too where you can train with not just casting directors but people in the industry, like one-off classes, and I could probably send y'all a list or something like that once I actually have a curated list. But
that was gonna be my next question: is where can we see like a list of acting classes? Does that exist?
I could plug some for you, but like again, I mentioned the BGB studio only because they're my home studio. I know Warner Laughlin's really popular in LA.
Okay.
I know a lot of people in New York and LA.
Possibly this could be a page on your website of like acting classes, possible acting classes.
Yeah, but you don't want to just plug, certain people, at the same time.
Gotcha.
In New Mexico, though, I've been guest lecturing or, giving Q&As at the Soul Acting Studio, SOL.
Cool.
And they're in Albuquerque. So that's great, too, because New Mexico does have a lot of work, but then there's also a lot of green actors, and I think that they've done such a good job of getting a lot of these beginning actors and getting them on the road from being, say, an extra to coming in and reading for lines and actually having a good shot at booking these local roles versus having just an LA person automatically be brought in. So that's important, too. I think so many people feel like it's all or nothing. Like I have to go, to a conservatory for 2 years and then I'll start to audition. It's like, start auditioning now, but just work on your stuff, warm up your instrument, and just consistently, work on yourself. But then at a local level, whether you're in Austin or not, just there's no reason. What I like about these virtual classes is you don't have to be in LA, New York, or Chicago to take virtual classes.
That's really cool.
That's what I liked about not just the BTB, but what a lot of other studios were offering, because, I could be in my pajamas in Austin and do a class,
the talk show outfit,
and do a scene with someone who was in New York, and just be present for them, or someone in Washington State, and have a connection with them. So that's it.
All right, I think our camera has told us. That's right. Our cameras have told us that the show must end, and we're audio only for this bit. But thank you so much, Michael Druck, for having us on the show, or for coming on our show.
Sure.
And just taking it over, because we love having people in the community, first of all, and talking to them and just celebrating filmmaking.
Well, thank you for your celebration of it, and I just want to invite everyone, if you had questions, or if I left you on a cliffhanger, or you just want to get to know me in general, then Instagram's great, at Michael Druck Casting. That's great. And then I'm old school. I still use my Facebook casting page for a lot of stuff, / Michael Druck Casting. Yeah. And then if you just want to email me, michaeldruckcasting@gmail.com. I made it very easy. So if you can remember Michael Druck Casting, you can pretty much contact me. And Google me, even though Google and I have our issues.
Yeah.
You can Google me.
You're in a tough spot right now.
And we'll make up eventually. But Google me. You can probably find all my stuff, and you can probably find previous interviews and all that stuff when you saw my mug. So, thank y'all so much.
Michael Druck Casting. Thank you all, and we'll see you next week.